consider for a moment the types of music that you listen to. And now think about the music that the collective listens to. And when you ponder the types of music that the collective listens to, you can think about artists such as The Weeknd or Lana Del Rey to be animus or anima projecting factors where the male allows themselves to feel the repressed thoughts or emotions of The Weeknd, the artist The Weeknd, through his dark music, his sexual qualities, and all of these heartbreaks and this dark, mysterious quality. Like, that's the shadow version of a man and yearning to express itself in that type of music. Whereas Lana Del Rey is more of a, you can think about her as the anima projecting factor. A lot of men who seek that anima will listen to an artist like Lana Del Rey, for example. Now, I like and enjoy a lot of the music from both The Weeknd and Lana Del Rey, and I genuinely think that sometimes the music that they come up with, they are channeling something more. They are tuning into a frequency more so than others. And I think that other artists, that is, and I think that the reason that this is because they fully accept themselves. And men who have gotten to a point to where they are fully accepting themselves and where they are in the spirit of this time, they don't need to feel as though they have to be married to have a holistic life. And to society, even though society looks at artists like The Weeknd or Lana Del Rey and they see this projecting factor, they love these types of artists, right? And yet the artists embody something completely different in their personal life of what society or the family would want, right? And I don't use the family and society interchangeably as a definition or a semantic, but I'm using this as an example. And so society will look at the man who is no longer interested in being married and doesn't even want to be married and isn't married as a retarded genius, perhaps, because they will be envious of this man. I've had so many married men tell me that they are envious of me behind closed doors when their wives are not around. And I think to myself, you have way more than me as far as the materialistic qualities go. You actually have a wife, you have kids even, you have a pretty decent job. You know, some of these men that I've talked to, they're making six figures. And I'm thinking to myself, what exactly do I have that you would be envious of? Because I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I have a 2006 Honda Accord. I drive around, and yeah, I have my own business that I work with, and I'm the founder of my own business, and I have other things in the works, and I do what I do. I guess, what do I really have? Well, it's freedom. It's sovereignty. And something that I have learned is that a lot of men will think of you, and society will project onto men, oh, these people are retarded. You know, these people are retarded. Don't listen to these retarded men who are happily single. Happily single men are seen as retarded geniuses, I swear, from society's perspective, because they don't want to believe that a man can integrate his sense of wholeness without a woman or without a family. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that it makes you a better person for not having a family. Okay, I want a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids or anything like that. But I enjoy who I am, and I'm enjoying what I'm building, and I'm enjoying my responsibility unto myself. because I am working under the presupposition in my life that only being responsible for yourself is enough. Now, I'm not saying that there is not going to be other ways in which the unconscious will want to express itself, because that's my whole point and why I brought up the artist at the beginning of this video, is that depending on what type of art we are inspired by or that we listen to, because Lana Del Rey and The Weeknd, for example, they are very niche, and yet they're very broadly known. They're very well known artists among the current generations. And why is that exactly? What exactly is the unconscious seeking to integrate by looking at these artists and by listening to these artists? And why is it that these artists are so captivating to the unconscious mind of so many people? What exactly is there needing to be integrated? Well, it's the sense of adventure. It's the sense of repressed sexuality now having a vessel to express itself. Because ironically enough, we live in a society that, although it's very perverse and sexuality is very open, it's also the case that we have not really truly integrated that sexuality. The matrix, the construct, the simulation, whatever it is that you want to call it, again, the demiurge, it wants you and needs you to be stuck in lust so that you are constantly focused on desires. Now, this is something that I was thinking about last night in regard to the Regal timeline theory. And the Regal change old timers will understand what I'm talking about here. It's that the timeline theory is that there are series of patterns in time that you can move on to. There are high value timelines, there are low value timelines, there are high cost, low value timelines, low cost, high value timelines, high cost, low value, high cost, high value timelines. There are all these different types of timelines that we can associate with, and it's a broad topic to touch on. But something I was thinking about last night is, well, what exactly is the timeline then? Well, because the 2D, because we are interdimensional beings, 2D are like the second dimension is just the patterns expressing themselves. Whereas in the 3 dimensions, that's where the patterns are observed. Whereas in the 4th dimension, it would be more so like a phenomenon. So what I mean is that the 2-dimensional reality is the spirit's pattern in time. The 3-dimensional reality is the linear view from the ego's perspective of time. And this is where the ego doesn't realize that timelessness, which is godliness and God itself, is what it is. But the ego can only see time linearly. It doesn't see time as a interdimensional force, like a tesseract, right? Whereas in the 4th dimension, that is the observation of the spirit through the pattern of the spirit. That's where there's the awareness of the awareness. And then you can go on and so forth. What many people who look at unmarried men rather, they only see the 2D and the 3D part of that man. They don't recognize that a man who recognizes his own beauty is the most dangerous type of man. Whereas a woman who forgets her type of beauty, that's where the woman falls. You know, she loses the glory of her femininity. Whereas a man, he will be able to reclaim. A man is always fallen until he rises. Whereas women are risen until they fall. And make no mistake, a lot of the women out here are heeding the calls to the streets continually into their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. Might even make a whole video on that, but because that is really a whole nother topic. But the whole point of this video is, are you properly integrating that which needs to be integrating? Are you truly accepting what is happening? Because for me, myself, I've often wondered, because in my mind, sometimes I can trick myself into thinking, well, I should be married by now. Well, I should be. I'm 29 years old. I've done what I needed to do. I have a life going for myself. Like, is it easy? No. But I can accept who I am. I love who I am. I know I feel safe. I know my nervous system is calm. I know that I can emotionally regulate. I can lead a woman. I know I can be what I need to be for a family. But, like, people will say, oh, well, everything before the word but doesn't count. It's like, well, sure, I would say that that's true most of the time. But the reality here, if we want to talk about what's the difference between real and true, the reality is that the patterns in this empirical timeline that everybody who is sharing this common life can see is that women have chosen to be something other than what they are. They've, for the most part, they've chosen a path that is in a form of regression. They're not rising to the occasion. They're not really rising to who they are. Instead, they're just falling away from it. Whereas I see many more men who are rising to who they need to be. Now, does this make it easy? And does this make it like men just, they've got it all figured out? Absolutely not. There are so many weak men in today's society. Society really is cooked for the most part. I don't see how most men are going to be able to come back from this. And I don't see how most men cannot see the error of their ways, because they just are so, the reality, let's differentiate the two. So their delusion is their reality. But the truth is that most of these men don't even want to elevate to beyond that 4D, 5D dimensions. They don't want to elevate themselves, because that means that they'd have to look at themselves in a new way, and they'd have to live what is true and let die what is false. And the probability of that occurring is ever decreasing with their choices and their behaviors. And not only that, it's that the society that we live in doesn't even reward honor. In reality, this construct, the world pays to win, and it pays to be cold and calculated. It doesn't usually pay to be compassionate. It doesn't usually pay to be kind. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, so does that mean I shouldn't be kind? Well, it's not necessarily. I'm just saying that it doesn't, the world doesn't always reward that. The world doesn't necessarily reward you for doing good things, let's say. Now, I'm not saying that there are bad things and good things. I'm just saying that there are things that are going to lead toward a more positive state of emotion, and there's going to be a state of everlasting emotional positivity, but maybe not in this life. This body, it's not really yours. It is, but it isn't. This body belongs to whatever this reality is, whatever this construct is. And the body is a temple, yes, but it's your soul that has the true nutrients of the spirit. It's your soul. It's something that is within you. The body is just there. And you can use the body as a electromagnetic satellite because it is one, but that doesn't mean that the electromagnetic satellite is, just something super powerful, magnificent. It's that no. It's this world. A lot of people think that the world is digital, and the world is becoming more digital. No doubt about that. The AI doomers are already coming out of the woodworks, right? But I do not share the sentiment that the reality that we live in, this construct, is digital. I see it more as electric. And the digitalness of it is a byproduct of the electrical construct that we live. And so what I see to be the case is that I do not disregard the importance of family, because what I've seen is that many people who don't know how to add value to the family unit are going to be the same types of people that try to disregard your value as a person quickly. And especially the religious types of spirits. This goes for Muslims, this goes for Christians, this goes for everybody. Everybody with a religious spirit that are hyper-focused on their form, like, the Quran is the only truth, or the Bible is the only truth. It's like, okay, well, you already, because at that point, if I ever question the integrity of the Quran, or if I question the integrity of the Bible, and then you use the Quran or you use the Bible as a way to try to explain the truth to me, and I'm not even saying I don't believe in it. I'm not saying that I do believe in it. I'm just saying that if somebody questions, let's put it like this. Let's put the hypothetical like this. If somebody questions the integrity of the Quran or the Bible or whatever, the Bhagavad Gita or whatever it is that forms scripture, and you use the same scripture to try to convey a truth, you are delusional. By definition, you're delusional, because the truth, if it is the truth, ought to be either embodied, or you can see multiple data points of verification outside the original source that also can verify this. This is one of the reasons why in the court of law, witnesses are so powerful. It's because they're supposed to be observers of the reality. They're supposed to be data points about what happened. But you can see, like, on the news, in the media, for example, it's one of the reasons I don't really watch the news anymore. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch the news. I'm not saying you should watch the news. I'm just saying, me personally, like, there were so many people talking about Trump's State of the Union last night, and I don't even care. I've seen enough from these pedos. I've seen enough from the child eaters. I've seen enough from these people. I'm not going to listen to them, because they don't have our best interests at heart anyway. But you'll see with the media, if there's an event that happens, and then they look at the witnesses around, a lot of these witnesses are just actors. Okay, they're just actors. They're not even real witnesses. And I can verify that because I've seen multiple people who are witnesses on the same location at different places at different times. Like from 5 years ago with certain riots, I saw somebody, and then just with the Charlie Kirk assassination, saw the same types of people. So, I think that they're just actors. I think that they are. I'm not saying that you should believe me or not believe me. Go verify it for yourself, right? Go verify it for yourself. I don't need anybody to believe me. But this is part of why the society, this is why people who are not married, specifically men, because women, if they're not married, they're usually confused or traumatized after 25. That's what I've seen. If they're not married after 25, women are usually confused or traumatized. If men are not married after 25 to 30, They're usually a retarded genius, and that's pretty much it. Like they're usually a retarded genius, or they're just, completely so far removed from, like, God forbid, a below average man. That's what I've seen. And it is what it is, right? But this is something that I think needs to be talked about, simply because, again, it's a matter of, well, what are you accepting in your life right now? And are you accepting the circumstances of your life with total ease? And if so, how are you doing that? If not, why aren't you doing that? And how can you, if you want to? And number two is that, okay, well, are you integrating your psyche appropriately? Are you integrating the wholeness of your psyche appropriately? It's a decision that ultimately you're going to have to decide, but your actions are going to declare this one way or another. So I don't think repression is helpful, but I do think that if you're able to understand the true power of being responsible only for yourself and being at ease with yourself, you're going to become a retarded genius, more than likely. So with all that being said, I hope that this message was useful and insightful for you. Sign up for the Godlike Mastery offer that I have if you're someone with the financial means to really put forth, and the time with the means as well, to really put forth the effort to make that full mind, body, soul transformation, or do a general one-on-one session with me as well. I don't do just talking just to talk anymore. I just don't. I've tried that with people in the past, and they've ended up just being opportunists. And I don't really care for those kinds of people anymore. So at this point, if you're going to want to talk to me about certain things, the Godlike Mastery offer is definitely for a certain kind of person, but for regular one-on-ones, not anymore. We're not going to just, oh yeah, let's just have a conversation. No, we're not doing that anymore. Sorry, I've seen too much, and I've just seen too many opportunists, because they just want to, they will binge watch my stuff for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they'll, oh, I've got to talk to you, man. I just really feel like the Spirit is calling me to, and they'll use belief in God as a way to like justify them needing to talk to me. Which, yeah, that's a whole other conversation of itself. But then they'll want to talk, and I've talked to them. I've talked to them. I've been there for them. They'll ask me questions and all that, and then if they get what they want, they just leave, and they won't respond. They don't have anything to give. These are a lot of takers out here. So I'm only aiming to put out a signal toward high quality people that really want to make a shift. And so I'm leaning into and tuning into that frequency of, because that's really, that's the whole point of the timeline theory, is that the structural pattern of your timeline is dependent upon your frequency then. And so depending on what frequency you are in is going to determine the types of patterns within your timeline. So with all that being said, peace be with you. Until next time.